Hi everyone, welcome to part 12 at breaking down the product design A-level coursework. So we've now just completed our research section. So if you followed the videos all the way through, um, in the very first video what we did, we broke down the marking criteria for the research section, and then we saw that it was split into two parts. So you had the main body of your research, which was out of 20, then you had your specification, your brief, and your Gantt chart that was out of 10. So research section as a whole was out of 30. So we're going to do the same thing with the design development section. So total number of marks for this is 25. So the bullet points that you see in front of you at the minute, so that is from the top band of the marking criteria. So we're going to read through them and then break them down and read between the outlines of what they're actually saying. So the first one is the rationale for design decisions is clearly documented and fully justified, with constant reference being made to brief, specification, and investigations throughout development of their design proposal. So what that's essentially saying is the first part is rationale for design decisions is clearly documented. So your thought process of your designs as you're doing them. So as you're designing these things and you're thinking about it, you've clearly got a thought process in your head. Now, when I mark it, I don't necessarily know what you were thinking, and then when I send it off to the examiner, they don't know what you were thinking either. So every single thought you've had as you've been designing it needs to be noted down. That can either be done in pen on the paper before you scan it in, or it can be typed up on your folder afterwards. It's up to you, but that process has to be on there. So the next part is constant reference being made to design brief and specification. So in the last video, the last bit of the research, we looked at the brief and the specification, and we talked about how important they both were. Now this is why they're both so important, because you've got to refer back to them constantly. So it says that word constant reference being made. So you've got to go back each time you do a design. You've got to look back and see if you've met your brief and you've met your specification points. That's why they didn't have to be measurable. Did you meet them or not, and why or how? And then the last bit is constant reference to investigations throughout the folder. So that is basically referring back to your research. So talking about when you're mentioning materials, link it back to the materials research you did in the research, and talk about properties and things like that. Remember, if you've got research in your folder that you never talk about, you're not making constant reference to it, and that's why you will lose marks. So the next point is, in the development of innovative design proposals, the student will demonstrate clear evidence of originality, creativity, and willingness to take design risks. Now this one's a little bit more difficult to sort of pin down because it's sort of open to interpretation. But essentially, there's three key words there. It's innovation, originality, and creativity. So remember that we're doing A-level product design here, so we're not after the really basic, boring designs. If you're doing architecture and you just design a square building, you're not going to get any marks. If you just design a really obvious product that already exists and you just redraw it, you're not going to get any marks. You've got to design something new, which is our originality, complex, which is the creativity, and then there's got to be something new about it. So next point, excellent use of a variety of modelling techniques to support ongoing development work throughout. This is supported using drawing, sketching, annotations, and notes showing clear evidence of design thinking. So we've already talked a little bit about the notes showing clear evidence of design thinking already, so that's just your whole thought process. But remember, there are three key ways to communicate your ideas. That is hand sketches, typically done in isometric or in two-point perspective. You've then got CAD modeling. Now the benefit of CAD modeling is that you can then add textures and materials in it. So just going back to sketches quickly, with your sketches then making sure that you've got things like thick and thin lines and rendering on there as well. And then the last one is prototype modeling. Now your models could be made out of cardboard, it could be made out of styrofoam, it could be made out of acrylic, you could laser cut them. It's up to you. But really, for each development, you'd sort of be using each one of those modelling techniques. The more you can use all of them, the better. Now, obviously, play to your strengths. If you're really good at drawing by hand, you're quite confident with your hand sketching, use more of that than anything else. But you've got to get the other techniques in there as well. Same with if you think your hand drawing are not great, get better with your CAD designing, get better with your 3D prototyping. But make sure you've got all of those skills in there. So the next point is excellent ongoing development of design proposals achieved through exploration and experimentation with materials, techniques, and processes, leading to an excellent quality design of prototype for manufacture. So that is basically you've got to make sure you're developing your design. Once you've got your first concept, what you can't do is just say, well, that's what I'm making. Because the examiner wants to see that you have got this design journey that you've started on. So they should see, right, you started with this design, you spoke to your client, you did some development, you made a model, your design changed a little bit, you had to play around with some materials, you tried some different techniques, and this is how you ended up with your final design. If your final design and your first concepts look pretty much exactly the same, you're not going to get that point at all, because they want to see that you've developed and you've made changes to it. So the next 2 points are linked together really. So that's comprehensive and fully detailed manufacturing specification, produce which makes specific reference to relevant quality control checks and allows for fully accurate interpretation by a third party. And the last one is project management for manufacturing, allows for further development of design proposal in response to ongoing evaluation, testing, and full consideration of contingency planning as prototype development takes place. So those both together make up your manufacture plan. So basically, imagine it almost like a recipe cookbook. So step by step, all the different jobs that you have to do. So that would be what jobs you've got to do, exact sizes need to be, what tools and equipment you need. I will show you some examples. Now, I'm not allowed to give you templates for these things, but I can show you past examples and show you good practice so you can get some ideas that go with it. So that's the breakdown of the marks. So remember, design development is out of 25. If you've got any questions before you start on this, send me an email and I'm more than happy to